While the United States officially denied investigating unidentified aerial phenomena until 2017, other nations had already been years ahead. Leading the world in UAP research is the South American country of Chile. In 1997, the Chilean government formally instructed air traffic controllers and military personnel to create the Committee for the Study of Anomalous Aerial Phenomena. The committee investigates every report of UAP activity from commercial, military, and civilian pilots. One of the most publicized cases occurred in 2014. Chilean naval officers flying along the coast near Santiago captured video of a strange object. It resembled a rocket with a visible plume trailing behind it. The helicopter was flying at approximately 4,500 feet. 9 minutes of relatively clear footage exist. The Chilean military studied the video for 2 full years and still could not identify the object. Chile, like many South American countries, has long shown greater openness to the idea that objects are entering our airspace. Researchers believe this openness is rooted in cultural heritage. Peru and Bolivia are treasure troves for ancient theories. Pre-Inca and Inca cultures spoke of beings of light descending from the sky. That inherited knowledge may explain why countries like Brazil, Chile, and Uruguay have recorded dramatic UFO encounters for decades, while the rest of the world largely ignored them. Japan's sudden shift. Now, other nations are beginning to disclose information as well. Governments are openly investigating encounters reported by both civilians and military personnel. One of the most surprising countries to join this international effort is also one of the most traditionally skeptical, Japan. In 2018, the Japanese government released an official statement denying the existence of UFOs. For decades, senior defense officials dismissed the topic completely. They showed no interest and offered total denial of any extraterrestrial presence in Japanese airspace, yet that position changed dramatically. Former Wing Commander Santo of the Japanese Self-Defense Force has spoken publicly about the stories. He regularly heard from other pilots and civilians. There were many opportunities to see inexplicable things, he said. UFOs monitoring the sky, training in the sky. My view was that we should report and organize this data correctly, but even when it happened, it was only shared among colleagues, never reported publicly. According to Santo, numerous pilots described highly unusual encounters with cigar-shaped objects. During one incident, a student pilot in a fighter training course temporarily lost control of his aircraft. The alarms sounded. The plane behaved erratically. He watched a cigar-shaped object fly past at about 1,500 meters, traveling from east to west. The anomaly continued until the object disappeared. For years, Japanese military pilots were ordered to remain silent. Then, in September 2020, decades of secrecy ended. Defense Minister Taro Kono directed the self-defense forces to visually record any encounter with an unexplained craft. Many believe this public shift was prompted by a meeting 1 month earlier between Minister Kono and U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper. After the meeting, Japanese officials held a press conference and stated that unidentified aerial phenomena had been discussed and that the two nations agreed on the need to cooperate. That single acknowledgement marks a major development. Close allies like the United States and Japan are now openly speaking about the UFO issue and coordinating their response. Japan, which once denied any UFO activity, has established the Japanese Space Operations Squadron. To many researchers, the message is clear. Something is happening in the skies over Japan. Ancient theorists suggest governments around the world are finally beginning to acknowledge that objects in our atmosphere may not be of this earth. Admiral Byrd and Operation High. August 1946, esteemed U.S. naval officer and explorer Admiral Richard Byrd, one of the first pilots to fly over both the North and South Poles, organizes Operation High, the largest expedition ever sent to Antarctica. 13 ships, 20-3 aircraft, more than 4,700 military personnel. After World War II, Admiral Byrd was asked to lead a massive armada for a planned 4-month mission December through March. One official goal was to investigate potential sites for military bases, but by the end of February, something unexpected occurred. According to a diary later discovered by his son, Admiral Byrd encountered far more than ice and rock. He had heard legends of an entrance to the center of the Earth, near the South Pole. When his squadron flew beyond the pole, the landscape changed. Instead of endless ice, they found a temperate, lush, green region. Byrd could scarcely believe his eyes. Then, the extraordinary became even stranger. A shimmering, rainbow-colored city of crystal appeared. Flying disc-shaped objects surrounded the aircraft and took control of it. Guiding the plane to the ground, Byrd was escorted into a vast cavernous chamber, where he met a being he called the Master. The Master expressed deep disappointment in humanity's use of nuclear weapons, specifically the recent destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The beings were concerned about events unfolding on the surface of the planet and hoped humanity would ultimately stop its destructive path. For UFO researchers, this account is significant. The modern UFO era began immediately. After World War II and the first atomic detonations, a high number of UFO sightings have also been reported near nuclear missile silos. Air Force officers have described silos in nuclear weapons being temporarily disabled by what they perceived as extraterrestrial craft. Admiral Byrd's story aligns with numerous accounts of angelic or extraterrestrial beings who appear concerned about humanity's nuclear technology, not only for our survival, but for the safety of the planet they may also inhabit. If the diary is authentic, it raises a profound question. Are highly advanced beings living inside the Earth and monitoring what happens on the surface? According to the account, after the encounter, Byrd was taken to a government facility and ordered never to speak of the experience publicly. Everything he had witnessed was classified. Could Admiral Byrd's story reveal a connection between ancient traditions of inner Earth beings and the modern UFO phenomenon? Ancient astronaut theorists believe the answer is yes, and that we may be approaching the moment when humanity finally comes face to face with the inhabitants of the inner Earth. Albert Bender and the Men in Black, Bridgeport, Connecticut, 1953. Albert K. Bender, one of the nation's leading UFO investigators, it receives a visit that permanently ends his research. Bender had founded the International Flying Saucer Bureau during the major 1952 UFO wave. The same year, flying saucers were reported over Washington, D.C. and across the world. Within a year, the organization had grown rapidly. Then, just as suddenly, Bender shut it down. One night he returned home, entered his bedroom, and watched 3 dark, shadowy figures materialize through the wall. They wore hats and overcoats. Their eyes glowed. They smelled of sulfur. According to Bender, the entities communicated telepathically. They warned him to stop his UFO research and cease publishing his magazine, Space Review. After the encounter, he became ill and did not eat for 3 days. The visits continued. The entities caused headaches and exerted telepathic control. Eventually, Bender abandoned his work entirely. He later told associates that the beings claimed, "We come from a very distant place in this universe. We have been coming and going from your planet for some time. We cannot allow you or anyone to interfere. We have taken many humans from this planet to cover up our operations until we are finished. This episode is considered a pivotal moment in ufology. Shadowy entities intervened and shut down a major research effort, possibly setting the field back years. The visitor's Bender described match-modern reports of the Hat Man. He called them the Men in Black. While popular culture often portrays Men in Black as government agents, many who claim encounters believe they are something non-human, either extraterrestrials or entities, working on their behalf to prevent humanity from learning the truth. Witnesses report strange behaviors. The figures sometimes do not know how to use a pen, or how to eat or drink when offered food. Both the Hat Man and the Men in Black wear hats, influence people, and often appear malevolent. Some researchers theorize they may be the same type of being, or even the leaders of the so-called shadow people, directing them to discourage investigation of UFO experiences, whether they are the same phenomenon or not. One thing is clear. Real events are happening to real people, and those people struggle to understand what is occurring. Rendlesham Forest time travelers? In Suffolk, England, a remote forest near the village of Rendlesham became the site of one of the most extraordinary UFO encounters ever recorded. Some of those who experienced it believed the incident also involved time travel. The event began on December 26, 1980. Airman John Burroughs was performing a routine security check at a U.S. Air Force base when he was ordered to investigate a possible downed aircraft. He and his supervisor approached the east gate. They saw strange lights in the forest. Security personnel, including Sergeant Jim Pennis, were sent to investigate. They saw the same multicolored lights. The air itself felt charged, like static electricity on the skin and hair. The sensation intensified the closer they came to the tree line at times. Everything seemed to move in slow motion. Peniston reported seeing a large triangular craft, roughly 6 to 7 feet high and black in color, just beyond the trees. On the side of the craft, he discovered inscriptions, pictorial glyphs about 3 feet long and 6 inches high. Expecting to find U.S. Air Force markings, he instead saw unfamiliar symbols. When he ran his hand over the surface, he experienced what he described as a download of information into his mind, a series of zeros and ones. The next day, he felt compelled to write them down. Years later, a computer programmer translated the binary sequence. The message read, "Exploration of humanity continuous for planetary advance. Eyes of your eyes. Origin year 8100. The reference to the year 8100 forces a startling possibility. Were the beings not extraterrestrials from another star, but time travelers from Earth's own future? After the incident, the military conducted a brief investigation and allegedly tried to keep the witnesses away from the press. Both Burroughs and Peniston suffered lasting physical effects, throat and eye problems, white gums, vision issues. Doctors asked whether they had been exposed to radiation. Both men also experienced recurring dreams and nightmares. Peniston later described visions of time travelers from 40,000 to 50,000 years in the future whose purpose was to correct something catastrophic that had happened. He has never felt the craft was extraterrestrial. In his words, it's always been that they were simply us in the future. Could the object witnessed at Rendlesham have come not from a distant star, but from a distant point in time? Roswell debris. The skip site, Central New Mexico, October 19, 2019. Investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe invites ancient astronaut theorist Giorgio Tsoukalos to a remote desert location just outside Roswell, near the area known as the skip site. According to eyewitnesses, one of the 3 objects seen in the sky in July 1947 first struck the ground near this spot, then bounced back into the air, skipping like a stone on water before finally coming to rest. Geologist and Earth Professor Frank Kimbler has spent nearly a decade searching the trajectory area with infrared technology and metal detectors. He has recovered more than a dozen metal fragments that laboratory testing has shown to be highly unusual. When Kimbler opens a case containing the pieces, the fragments are tiny, twisted, and mangled, exactly what one would expect from high-speed impact debris the military might have overlooked. Some pieces show layered banding. Both Howe and Saukalos remarked that they have never seen material quite like it. Kimbler believes the fragments are extraterrestrial. T holds one piece and reflects. I think I'm holding something made by another intelligence from someplace we don't understand. The team then returns to the desert with a metal detector. After hours of searching, DCOKOOs detects a tiny piece of wire. Moments later, Howe finds another. Both fragments are twisted and mangled given the terrain and drainage patterns. Kimbler notes that debris from the original crash could easily have washed into this exact location. Is it possible these small pieces of wire are overlooked remnants of the 1947 Roswell crash? Sun Dune Cave and Inner Earth Beings, Quang Binh Province, Vietnam-1991. A local man named H. Can discovers a mysterious entrance to a hidden mountain cave obscured by dense jungle. The cliffs are too steep for him to explore further, but he notes the location. Nearly 2 decades later, the British Cave Research Association finally enters the cave. What they find is astonishing. The largest known underground chamber on the planet. Sun Dune Cave is not merely a cavern. It is an entire subterranean world, 40 stories high. An ancient forest grows inside. A river flows through it, not a stream, but a full river. An entire ecosystem thrives in the darkness and the occasional shafts of sunlight that pierce collapsed sections of the ceiling. The cave is estimated to be roughly 3 million years old and stretches nearly 6 miles. Local residents, however, speak of something even more remarkable. They describe reptilian, humanoid beings emerging from the cave and living deep within it. These descriptions closely resemble the seraphim-winged serpent beings in Kabbalistic traditions said to have withdrawn into the inner earth during the Vietnam War in the 1970s. Some U.S. soldiers reported encounters with upright, lizard-like beings inhabiting caves. Similar accounts of reptilian entities in underground caverns appear across the globe. In Cusco, Peru, stories persist of an extensive tunnel system associated with serpent deities known as the Amaru. Peruvian authorities eventually sealed every known entrance, declaring the tunnels to dangerous for the public. Another class of inner being described in the Zohar has large black eyes and a face with only 2 dark holes for a nose, a description that matches the classic gray reported by modern abductees. Some researchers now ask a radical question. Are the beings we assume come from other planets actually emerging from inside our own Earth? And are the flying saucers so often seen disappearing into mountains, or the landscape actually returning to inner Earth bases? Nan Madol, the floating city in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, roughly 2,500 miles northeast of Australia, lie the ruins of Nan Madol, a once great ancient city of hundreds of man-made islets off the eastern coast of Micronesia, has been called the 8th wonder of the world. The complex covers 11 square miles and contains more than 250 million tons of basalt columns. The columns are 18 feet long, 4 feet in diameter, and stacked as high as 40 feet floating on a submerged coral reef. Today, the site is abandoned and considered haunted by local Micronescians. No one knows exactly when it was built, or how the massive stones were moved. Local tradition is unanimous. The blocks were quarried across the island and flown into place. Legend tells of twin sorcerers of giant stature who descended from the sky, floated above the site, and positioned the columns at will. a story strikingly similar to the legends of Puma Punku beneath the water. Additional basalt columns have been found, suggesting an even older, submerged civilization known in legend as Kanamwo. Researchers who study the columns above and below the water have discovered a curious electromagnetic anomaly, a strong magnetic. The field exists in every single basalt block. A compass spun along the stones whirls continuously. Many believe the site itself is a natural energy vortex. One reason both non-Medell and the legendary sunken city may have been built there. Local people also report frequent sightings of orbs and lights hovering around the ruins. Some ancient astronaut theorists propose that the elevated electromagnetic energy was not only used to levitate the giant basalt columns, but was the very reason extraterrestrial beings helped construct the site. Was non-Medell a sacred place of contact, a magnetic hotspot or portal that allowed communication with non-human intelligences? Megalithic temples around the world may have been built precisely to harness such forces, functioning as communication portals between different realms or different worlds. Russian nanodebris and global crash sites. The Roswell incident remains the most famous UFO crash in history, but reports of other crashes and strange metallic debris exist around the world. In 1991, geologists searching for gold deposits in Russia's Ural Mountains made an unexpected discovery more than 30 feet underground. Thousands of tiny metal coils and springs. Some measure only 1/10,000th of an inch under an electron microscope. They reveal spirals and precisely components. Scientists concluded the objects are artificially made of tungsten and molybdenum, the same materials detected in fragments recovered near the Roswell skip site. Both metals have extremely high melting points and are used in modern spacecraft. Visitors to the Ural Mountains frequently report cigar-shaped craft trailing fire across the sky. Local folklore also speaks of ancient civilizations that vanished underground, including the so-called dwarf people. If the nanoparticles are debris from a crashed craft, their depth suggests they could have been deposited tens of thousands of years ago. Some researchers estimate the material may be more than 50,000 years old. Crash sites may exist all over the planet. Some modern, some ancient. Rumors persist of storage facilities holding recovered debris in remote regions of China, at Pine Gap in Australia, and at RAF Rudlow Manor in England. Is it possible Roswell is only one of many locations on Earth where fragments of extraterrestrial craft still lie buried? Remote viewing at the ETI Ranch in May. Former British intelligence officer Nick Pope visits the ETI Ranch in the Pacific Northwest, home of the Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence Organization, for more than 30 years. The site has been a major hotspot for unexplained aerial phenomena. Scientists from Boeing, NASA, and Lockheed Skunk Works have conducted research there. What sets ETI apart is its primary observational tool, not telescopes, but remote viewers. Remote viewing involves individuals who claim the ability to perceive distant or hidden targets with the mind. Pope first encountered the technique while running the UK government's UFO desk. He notes that modern physics, including work at the Large Hadron Collider, is now seriously exploring the possibility of other dimensions. At the ranch, former government remote viewing expert John Vaught and skywatcher Peter Slattery lead an experiment combining traditional observation with remote viewing. The goal is to better understand a recent increase in UFO sightings over Mount Adams in Washington state. While a field team uses infrared cameras and real-time satellite tracking, two remote viewers sit in a windowless room with only pencil and paper. They are given only a random 8 number linked to the target. They begin sketching. That is, the International Space Station passes overhead. Both remote viewers independently draw nearly identical rectangular objects. Later, the field team observes a fast-moving light that does not appear on any satellite or aircraft tracker. It appears, moves rapidly, and fades, leaving no conventional explanation. Was the object extraterrestrial, or something else entirely? Closing life in the Ice Whistler, Canada, April 17, 2019. Ancient astronaut theorist Giorgio Tsoukalos and retired NASA scientist Dr. Richard Hoover board a helicopter bound for a massive ice cave in the Canadian wilderness. Dr. Hoover has spent much of his career searching for microscopic evidence of extraterrestrial life and is a leading proponent of panspermia, the theory that life on Earth originally arrived from space on comets and meteorites. Inside the Whistler ice cave, the glacier reveals 1,000 shades of blue. Black streaks of rock are trapped within the ice. When sunlight penetrates, it melts tiny pools of water around those rocks. Bacteria and algae grow, creating their own microscopic atmospheres, soils, and oceans. The ice is tens of thousands of years old, yet it teems with life. Some microorganisms reproduce only once every 50 or even 100 years. They exist in suspended animation or slow movement throughout the glacier. Dr. Hoover's conclusion is profound. This entire ice cave and ice formations across Earth and throughout the solar system may be filled with living organisms. And if life can survive and thrive in such extreme environments here, it may be widely distributed throughout the universe. End screen. Call to action. The evidence continues to mount. Governments are shifting their positions. Debris is being recovered. Ancient sites still pulse with unexplained energy. And life itself may be far older and far more widespread than we ever imagined. The question is no longer whether something is out there, but how soon we will finally understand what it is. If you found this investigation compelling, subscribe for more deep dives into the unexplained. Share your thoughts in the comments and stay curious.